Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this abolishing of the Article 370 in Kashmir, and that status of the Kashmiris has been taken away, the special status according to which they had some advantages. But interestingly, now what we will witness in the future is about the demographic changes. Actually, they've already started. Now, after abolishing this article, the Indians can practically pour in as many people as possible in that region, especially in the valley and in certain other areas where there is Muslim majority, just to make sure that the number of Hindus should be eventually increased in the region. So if consensus or some sort of a referendum takes place at some stage, it should be in the favor of the Hindus and the Indians. Now, since the entire leadership of Kashmir, and especially the Hurriyat leaders, they've all been arrested. Curfew has been imposed there. There is no internet service. There is no other way of communication available for them to tell their story to the external world. Now, interestingly, when we talk about the right of self-determination of the Kashmiri people, or talk about, for that matter, the indigenous homegrown freedom struggle, that is going to actually multiply now. Youth is involved in this particular struggle and is the major target of the Indian forces. Though they have already increased the number of forces, fresh troops have been sent to Kashmir. Now, situation is very fluid. It's not as good as we all expected, but interestingly, when you look at the details coming from that area, there's a lot of problem going on. Kashmiris, basically, when we say that such a beautiful place, but they actually are living in hell out there. As far as the violations, or when we talk about the draconian laws for that matter, or the Indian atrocities by their military, that's an ongoing sort of I would call that an SOP for them, because trigger-happy military of India has already killed 100,000 people, and they don't care if they kill more. Thousands and thousands of people have been blinded out there, whether you talk about a 4-year-old kid or you talk about 80-year-old for that matter, old man. But this is something very, very concerning, not only for the Pakistanis but for the entire region. A lot of people do believe that this particular step taken by the Indian government actually also reflects something very important, and that is the timing of this particular action, especially when the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, was in the United States of America and he met Donald Trump there. He assured that he can play the role of the arbitrator there and can sort out this issue. But the very next day, the Indians said, well, nothing of that sort ever were discussed between the two leaders, talking about the PM Narendra Modi and the President of USA. Actually, this particular meeting took place in Osaka in Japan a month ago. But right after that, now when Pakistan is about to make sure that the talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government and USA in particular, they conclude in a positive way, and they're heading towards that. This particular step has been taken. There's a lot of problem on the LOC, constant firing and unprovoked shelling across the border, killing civilians, children, you name it, and that's happening there. But where is it going to lead? Today, the Prime Minister, in fact, in detail spoke to the parliamentarians and, in fact, shared his concerns about that as well. But we'll also talk about the ongoing threat of genocide. That is going to be another huge problem. And this illegal move regarding the occupied Kashmir will also destroy the current understanding between the regional countries. And that is what is the main concern of the Pakistani leadership at the moment. Now, India also wants to, basically, they intend to prevent Pakistan from the support of Kashmiris, but as far as the diplomatic support or the moral support or the political support is concerned, we have been there, we are there, and we will be with them. That is what exactly Pakistan is doing at the moment. Now, to talk about this issue, we have with us in our studio, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on my right is Ambassador Asif Durrani Saab, is a senior diplomat. Sir, thank you very much. And we also have with us Dr. Professor Rifat Hussain Saab, who is a senior strategic analyst and an IR expert. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
We have with us Brigadier retired Salim Kamar Bhatt Saab, who is a senior analyst. Thank you very much, sir. Durrani Saab, first of all, sir, since you have heard You've been reading about it, and you know the details and all. But let's hear what the Prime Minister had to say today, and then we'll start our conversation from there.
इन्होंने फिर आज़ाद कश्मीर में कुछ करना है, रद्द अमल आएगा अगर इनके ऑपरेशन की वजह से कुछ हुआ, इंसिडेंट हुआ पुलवामा टाइप, इन्होंने एक्शन लेना है, हम उसका जवाब देंगे। ये हो नहीं सकता कि ये अगर पाकिस्तान में अटैक करेंगे हम उसका जवाब ना दें, हम जवाब देंगे। उसके बाद क्या होगा? मजीद वो और आगे बढ़ सकती है, वो भी जवाब देंगे, हम भी देंगे। उसके बाद क्या हो सकता है? कन्वेंशन वॉर हो सकती है। कन्वेंशनल वॉर अगर हो गई फिर क्या होगा? दो नतीजे हो सकते हैं, वॉर हमारे खिलाफ भी जा सकती है, हमारे लिए भी जा सकती है। अगर हमारे खिलाफ वॉर जाती है तो फिर हम क्या करेंगे? फिर स्पीकर साहब इसी हॉल में मैंने कहा था हमारे पास दो रास्ते हो जाएंगे, एक बहादुर शाह जफर और दूसरा टीपू सुल्तान का रास्ता। एक रास्ता वो कि हाथ खड़े करके हम हार मानने की करेंगे, दूसरा रास्ता टीपू सुल्तान का कि आखिरी खून के कतरे तक हम मुकाबला करेंगे।
Well, that was Prime Minister Imran Khan. Now, Rani Saab, this statement is pretty alarming, sir. He is basically saying that there is a probability of a war now. Normally, sir, the month of August, September and October onwards, this is the time when we have witnessed that the Indians have attacked Pakistan, normally around September, October, as the nights are longer than the days, whatever the reason is for that. But now this particular move, sir, by the Indians to abolish this Articles 370 and they have taken away the special status of the Kashmiris, can it lead to any sort of a war, sir, between the two countries? Let's start off from there.
I think firstly it can lead to any direction. And in your intro you have comprehensively stated about the overall situation emanating from the revocation of Article 370. Personally, I feel that this article has no meaning for Pakistan because in any case it was a veneer to cover the occupation, and it was a lollipop to the Kashmiris which gave them some special status. But at the same time, that special status was always snatched from the Kashmiris. They had no rights because the number of governors' rule imposed on Indian held Kashmir, or the way the Kashmiri leaders, even pro-Indian Kashmiri leaders, were treated all the time, made a mockery of this Article 370, except that non-Indians, non-Kashmiris cannot buy property. If the BJP thinks, if the Sangh Parivar thinks that through the annulment of this article, they can bring about demographic changes in Kashmir, they can do it. This has happened in history elsewhere. But what was the result? The result was destruction. And India would not be an exception to this whole situation. What I'm trying to say is that India, especially this dispensation, which is whose actual ideology is Hindutva, the Hindu Raj, it's based on hatred, it is based on racism, it is based on fascism, which cannot see others, which means non-Hindus, favorably. They cannot see them as equal citizens of India. So Kashmiris are no exception because Kashmiri in any case is an occupied land. And for them it makes a good case to bring up Hindu sentiments inside the country to further suppress the Muslims in all over India. Because Kashmiris in any case are under this suppression for the past 70 years, but especially for the past 3 decades, whereby almost 100,000 Kashmiris have been martyred, where worst kind of atrocities have been perpetrated. where you have thousands of half widows, where rape has been used as a weapon to bludgeon the Kashmiris to submission, where thousands are behind bars, where even now many hundred people have been blinded through new tactics by using pellet guns. So these are the atrocities which have been gradually increased in the Kashmir, in occupied Kashmir. But it has not actually, it could not break the will of the people who simply want azadi, who don't want to live in India, who actually what they do or their agitation. Even now their agitation is actually peaceful. Stone throwing versus pellet guns or stone throwing versus killing them point blank.
Use of live fire, sir.
Live fire, point blank.
Yeah.
So there's no match. There's no match. And now there are parallels which are being drawn between the Palestinian case and the Kashmiris, where the Israelis, their atrocities and Indian atrocities.
And the same formula has been applied
The
here
same
as well.
formula is being applied, and there's a strategic partnership between the two, and they want to quell the Kashmiri movement through this brute force, but they have failed. So this revocation of Article 370 is not going to bring about, in my view, much material difference. And I think Prime Minister actually pointed in his speech, it was quite a clear-headed speech, a clear, you can say, message to India that your action against Kashmiris or Pakistan would be reciprocated. He also hinted at the Pulwama type some incident going to happen in Kashmir. Don't blame Pakistan for that. But if you want to, or if you want to repeat the Pulwama type or Balakot or something, so you'll be reciprocated in the same coin. So there's no ambiguity as far as Pakistan is concerned. We are a party, and India cannot snatch this locus standi of Pakistan, whatever Indian tactics may be. So I don't think that India is going to win this way. In fact, I can see that it would further alienate the people in the occupied Kashmir, even the pro-Indian politicians. Now they have been saying that the two-nation theory was correct. They have been saying that they have been betrayed. So this is what this 370 has brought in. So this is, I think, on the balance.
Interesting times ahead, I would say, sir.
It is, and dangerous, but I must say that I think we have so far behaved, we have conducted very maturely. There is no need to indulge in emotionalism.
I mean, that is not going to lead anywhere, by the way, sir. Now, talking about another statement, sir, that was from the DGISPR, that the military can go to any extent. Now, obviously, there was this Corps Commander Conference, and primarily this was the main issue of, or maybe the main agenda. Now, sir, the role of the military, and when we use these three words, political support, moral support, and diplomatic support, sir, what new should be added to this, sir, to support them? And obviously, this particular indigenous homegrown movement for freedom struggle, sir, this is going to gain further momentum. This is what my own analysis are, sir. Your take.
I think, first of all, I would like to make a brief comment as to what the Indians have done by revoking the Article 370. I have a different take on it, because Indians are trying to create a new reality based on the revocation of 370 article, whereby they are saying that Kashmir is a settled issue, it's our territory, it's our internal matter, and that position needs to be challenged by Pakistan in all its dimensions. So even though Pakistan is not directly affected by the revocation of Article 370, to that extent I agree with Asif Saab, but I think it has very grave implications as far as the disputed nature of the Kashmir is concerned, and the Indians, by doing this, are they have something in mind, which is the upcoming UN General Assembly session, in which there will be a lot of questions will be asked. why you have done it and what is going to be their line of defense, and the Indians would like to project their narrative. I absolutely agree with Ambassador Saab that Indians have overreached themselves, and one could make a strong case that they are not, they will not be able to contain the strategic fallout, particularly with regard to the Kashmiri resistance struggle, which will continue.
When you talk about the strategic fallout, sir, explain that.
Well, strategic fallout means that, the Prime Minister also in his speech referred to that there is a
Probability of a war.
No, not only lead to a war, but it's a dangerous step, because they have tried to create new facts on the ground which will not be acceptable to the Kashmiris. And if the Kashmiris pick up the arms, there are suicide attacks, and those India would blame those attacks on Pakistan, and that can lead to an escalation spiral which can get out of hand, including the possibility of a full-fledged conventional military conflict between the two countries. So in that sense, this situation that has resulted from the revocation of the Article 370 poses a direct threat to the peace and security in the region. And for that matter, I think Pakistan would be well within its right to draw international community's attention, particularly P5 countries, and also draw the attention of the UN General Secretary that he should exercise his powers and take a suo motu notice of the dangerous situation that has been created as a result of Indian decision to revoke Article 370. But the question that you had asked me that what are the other, I think Pakistan needs to pursue all its diplomatic options and fight in the legal fora, including the International Criminal Court, and sustain and mobilize international opinion. And more importantly, I think Pakistan needs to mobilize and use all new tools which are available to it in terms of the social media and campaigning for the rights of the Kashmiris, because India's strategy is that by cordoning off the valley from the rest of the world, by imposing curfew and cutting off lines and so they would like to force them either to flee or to live with the Indian forces or the oppression. So that situation is untenable, as we have seen for the last 5 years. They have used 700 troops and they have not been able to quell the resistance. So inducting 68 or even 1 lakh more troops will not lead to the diminution of Kashmiri resolve to fight for their freedom. So here is an opportunity for Pakistan to openly advocate its support, and I would even draw your attention to the fact that under the UN 1982 resolution, if there is an occupying force anywhere in the world, and that against that occupation forces oppression, if the local people or people who are being occupied, they take up arms, so there is a moral obligation on the part of the neighboring state to come to the rescue. So that is an option that is also available with Pakistan, and when Pakistan says that it's going to employ all the tools,
but that is going to be a very tricky situation, sir. For example, if you want to support the Kashmiris, obviously you're not going to send your forces inside.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about that there are Kashmiri Muslims. They are divided families. They are living on
both sides of the border.
On both sides of the border. So the Kashmiris have a right to come to the rescue of the and to liberate the Kashmiris living on the Indian side from the oppression of the Indian security forces. So I'm not asking that that we should be sending regular troops. That's not what I'm advocating. But there is a moral dimension, which means that how long can the Kashmiris restrain themselves from the ongoing suppression across the border?
Right.
Because there was a hope that once the India-Pakistan dialogue takes place, there will be some kind of a secession in the Indian oppression against the Kashmiris. But that has not happened. And now we know why that has not happened. One reason why India has been resisting Pakistan's repeated offers to engage in a dialogue with Islamabad over all outstanding issues, including Kashmir. Now we know why they were not interested in dialogue, because they wanted
This is what their plan was.
This is what their plan was.
Brigadier Saab, your take on the same point, plus another additional question, sir, and that is about the role of Pakistan, the role of United Nations, and the role of OIC now. The countries which support the Kashmir cause, whether it's Iran or Saudi Arabia for that matter, or Turkey. I mean, Pakistani Prime Minister, in fact, had a word with the Malaysian head of state, Mahathir Mohamad, and then also had a word with Erdogan Saab in Turkey. Now, you are getting this support, but sir, the kind of current situation in which India is playing, or the kind of parameter available for them, they will go to any extent now. They have arranged fresh troops, 700,000 earlier mentioned by Dr. Saab. They're already present there. And we do not know, because there's a curfew-like situation, there is no internet connection, there is no means of communication out there. So whatever is happening out there, technically, sir, there's an absolute blackout. Yeah. Your take, sir.
Right. I think very valid points have already been spoken by Ambassador Asif and Dr. Rifat. I would like to add different points here. In Modi's first term of government, he used the period for changing the demography in Kashmir, while Pakistan, we had been talking about in the last 1 year in so many programs that they are making the military colonies called the Sainik colonies, they are making the industrial zones for the Indian investors in order to have a strong hold on the economy inside Jammu and Kashmir. So whatever had to happen had happened, and we had been forecasting that India is trying under Modi its best to scrap 370 and 35A. So that has happened. So we have to now see what next. I think Subramaniam Swamy, who is the representative, Indian representative on Kashmir, he has very clearly stated what do they want to do next. So we don't have to even imagine that, they have stated. They said now it's time for India to go after Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and we have to take back that territory from Pakistan. So therein lies that warning spoken about by Prime Minister Imran Khan, that there is chances of war seems imminent. So it can take any shape. It could be low intensity conflict, mid intensity conflict, or maybe all out war. So unintended consequences, unintended actions could be there. But coming back to your question, what is the role of OIC? What is the role of UNO? I think UNO has the prime responsibility, because they are the guarantors of UN resolutions on Kashmir. So it's a violation of those resolutions of UN General Assembly, UN National Security Council. The members individually and collectively, they have a lot of moral responsibility to stop India from what they are doing. So if this madness is not addressed by UNO now, then it would be more like League of Nations, that actually the failure of the League of Nations led to Second World War. And we know the consequences of the Second World War. So are we seeing the failure of the UNO as a Third World War between two nuclear powers, rather three nuclear powers, because China is also a stakeholder. The statement by the Chinese spokesperson today, they gave their statement about, they condemned the scrapping of 370, all right, but where they feel more pinches about Ladakh being declared integral part of India, and that hurts China very badly, because that is a disputed territory between India and China, in addition to the northeast frontier areas on which they had fought a war.
But we haven't heard much coming from the Chinese, sir.
Right. So China is a stakeholder, so it's not only Pakistan, China is also a stakeholder. Now how do they respond and react bilaterally or trilaterally or from the forum of Security Council? It has a lot of weight. So there is a lot of moral obligation on China as a strategic partner of Pakistan as well as a security member to play its very proactive role and force India. UN should be able to force India to stop doing what they are trying to do. Having said that, let me also draw your attention to the statements coming from the opposition leaders from within India. They are very sane voices. They consider this to be violation of Indian constitution, which is unilateral. It is Jawaharlal Nehru actually who took it to the United Nations. It is Indian Parliament that granted the special status to Kashmir by Article 370 and 35A. So when this has been taken back unilaterally by BJP, it is not settling well within the other political elites and political parties within India. So I think India is going to have a lot of problems internally. More so, how is the Indian Supreme Court, the Kashmir High Court, Indian Supreme Court decision that Article 370 has become permanent and it cannot be revoked. So Indian judiciary, Indian political parties have to play a lot of role in stopping the extremist BJP government from doing what they are doing. Because if they don't do that, India is going to see another, maybe implosion from within. I wrote today in the paper that perhaps this is the beginning of the end as for Indian Union is concerned. Because what Modi is trying to do, following extreme rightist Hindu nationalist policies, actually they are alienating all the minorities, the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, Buddhists, and their own clan, Dalits, they are all feeling alienated. There are more than 40 crores there. So if they all are on one side and the extremist Hindus are on one side, it is, I think, internally very much harming for India. But OIC, I do not see anything from OIC. Frankly, had OIC been effective, we wouldn't have seen Palestine in such a bad shape. What has India done? I think rightly pointed out by my panelists, that it is the Israeli template, what they did in Gaza, what they did in the Western Bank, that template has been applied now on Kashmir. So what are they going to do next? My hunch is that they are going to slowly and gradually in the next year or two, why they are bringing more forces, in order to do what? They are going to push, they are going to segregate the Muslim population within Valley of Kashmir, Jammu, and Ladakh. They have already changed their demography, as was evidence from the result of the election. More than 60% vote cast, but within the valley, 20%. So there in Kashmir Valley, what are they going to do? They are going to gradually push the Muslims towards the line of control, make detention camps, make their separate colonies, use them as a buffer, and slowly and gradually push them as swarms of refugees to Azad Kashmir of Pakistan. That would be one. Secondly, if they do that, the freedom struggle is going to see new heights, right? When that happens, I think India perhaps, here is the rub that they have miscalculated. What are now Kashmiri freedom fighters going to do? They are going to go to the extreme. When they do that, India is going to exercise more brutalities. And when that happens, as Professor Savari rightly pointed out, the people of Azad Jammu and Kashmir have all the rights to cross the line of control, go and help their brethren there. Who can stop them? Millions of people can cross. So that happens, the chances of escalated war between India and Pakistan also comes around. So that is where the UN has to play a role now, or it will be too late. So that is where the danger is. And the danger is if China does not play a role. So what role Pakistan is playing for China? What role Pakistan is playing in Afghanistan for America? If we are investing so much in Afghanistan, I think
do you
now
think
is the
that
time.
this step of the Indians can practically derail the process of peace in Afghanistan, sir?
That's what I'm saying. You know, they are feeling left out. They are feeling let down that Pakistan has, defeated them strategically. They have lost their war in Afghanistan. So that is where this situation in Kashmir is actually going to dilute Pakistan's efforts in Afghanistan. So America should be very worried. For example, we focus on Kashmir now and forget about Afghanistan for a month or so. See what happens in Afghanistan. Who's going to suffer? The US and its allies. If Pakistan forgets about
Basically,
China,
you have
Pakistan
promised the Americans that you will do whatever you can do within the given capacity.
So, and if Pakistan,
maybe a lot of analysts, Brigadier Sahab, also believe that we have overcommitted.
The last point is,
the point is that if this problem has started on the eastern border, obviously we won't be able to concentrate
and
much
if
on
our
the eastern
efforts are
side.
diluted from the Western Front as well as from China-Pakistan economic corridor, both China and USA will repent. Their strategic partner is actually, as I've said in your number of programs, the actual spoiler in China-Pakistan economic corridor as well as in Afghanistan is India. So we should not have any second thought when it comes to Kashmir, jugular vein, as said by Qaeda Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when somebody is laying his hand on my throat, I should care about that hand first rather than going and helping the friends
Correct.
here and there.
Correct.
So that is where I think Pakistan need to concentrate now. Whatever, you said what else can Pakistan do? Pakistan will do whatever Pakistan can materially, morally, politically and diplomatically. Let me add materially. And that material would go from Azad Kashmir of Pakistan.
You mean physical support to the
Inshallah, when
freedom
time
fighters.
comes. If they do what they intend to do in the next 2 years, they want to make a Gaza or West Bank
That is not
on
going to
line
be
of control.
acceptable either
We are
to the
not going
Kashmiris
to
or to
let that
Pakistan.
happen.
That's correct, sir.
So we are not going to
Now,
let that happen.
another important area. So now, a lot of analysts at that time when the Indians were putting a lot of pressure on LOC and other areas all along this side, sir, there was this general consensus that most likely there could be a war between Pakistan and India. Nobody was talking about this Article 370 or something, but they said because Pakistan now is playing a very major role as far as BRI is concerned. When you talk about CPEC in particular, sir, the Chinese, they've invested a lot of money. And they always wanted to see and come, on the other side of the mountains, actually. But now just to sabotage this, basically, sir, obviously the Americans, they in fact really opposed it. The kinds of statements they issued that this is a territory which is disputed, Pakistan can't do this, and the Chinese can't build roads and infrastructure there. But they never said that when Mangla Dam was built or KKH was built, right? Now suddenly they realized, just to create more problems. Do you think, sir, primarily this has been done and Indians and the Americans are very much on the same page regarding this issue, sir?
I think that was an old statement issued by the Americans with regard to the disputed nature of our territory. Because after the Prime Minister's visit to America, in fact, this point was highlighted to them regarding the importance of BRI. And they were pleasantly surprised, although they would not say it in so many words, that almost half of the Chinese industries are actually American industries. And they are going to benefit from this BRI initiative. So Mr. Trump is a businessman. He is pulling out from Afghanistan just to save $50 billion per annum.
Correct.
So Mr. Trump is not going to sabotage this BRI, reason being that it has got a lot of promise and many European countries are part of it. It's just not Pakistan or some other countries, but 82 countries are part of this initiative. Indians would not dare sabotage this. They would try, but on the sidelines. They tried.
Do you think so they have the capacity to do so?
I don't think so. Reason being that they don't have a capacity even to enter Azad Kashmir. What to talk of physically sabotaging that. But with regard to Afghanistan, let me tell you that it's a problem for us also. Mm-hmm. And we should not link it with India or with what is happening in Indian-held Kashmir. Reason is that we have to secure our Western Front. We have to have it because we have to have other friends also in this whole initiative. We have to cool-headedly assess the situation because we can tackle India. But if we should not be going on two front situation, and we should try to calm down Afghanistan. That would be into our benefit.
Correct.
Don't link it that we will be unable to do something about Afghanistan because now we are reaching to a stage where there are chances that Afghanistan may calm down. And if Afghanistan calms down, it is going to favor us most because we have been saying this, that the peace in Afghanistan actually would benefit Pakistan the most. And in that case, I think India would not be allowed by other stakeholders to spoil the broth. Reason being that Indians have no direct linkage with Afghanistan. They have not suffered because of Afghanistan. So therefore, they are not the important stakeholder as they think they may be. They are not. They have been doing this only to pressurize Pakistan. They have been using Afghan soil for their own nefarious designs. So therefore, that front should be closed, and we should not make any linkages of Afghanistan or peace in Afghanistan with what is happening in Indian-held Kashmir, because Indian-held Kashmir, much before Soviet invasion of Afghanistan or after the 9/11, that problem was there. We have a problem, and we are going to tackle that problem. We have always tackled that problem. Well, sometimes there have been lows, but that doesn't mean that we will forego that locus standi which we have in Kashmir. So we have to be very clear that what we want. We will struggle. We will fight to, as Prime Minister said, that we will go the Tipu Sultan way. We will not go the Bahadur Shah Zafar way. So this is very important. Everyone should be clear in the country that what are our objectives. We are not Palestine. We are not banking on other countries to come to the rescue of the Kashmiris.
All right.
We have to be confident enough what we are talking about.
You can't be on the back foot, sir.
Yes, and then the question is that let's not underestimate ourselves. We are a nuclear power, and we don't have to flaunt that. We don't have to blackmail that. We are not blackmailing. But the question is, we have to be confident enough. The problem is there. There's no doubt about it. India would try to have new normal in this situation, in this strategy. We can respond. We have already responded to the Indians. We will respond to the Indians. There may be certain arguments that because economically India is quite well off, it doesn't matter. There are the history is replete. Taliban are ragtag army. They have confronted US, maybe not in conventional warfare, but the question is resistance is there. The main thing is resistance.
At least your point of view should be there. Now, Dr. Saab, another important point, and that is about the demographic changes. I used to think that, if, let's suppose, they pour in a certain number of people and they're settled there, businesses are given to them, they can buy the property there, some multi-story buildings are being constructed, new schools, universities where people from all over India are studying and everything. I mean, this is how you do it. Pandits have been allotted a lot of land. Retired army officers and Jawans will be living there. So the overall culture is going to change. It's a Muslim state. Eventually, that culture is going to erode and will be slowly but surely dominated by the Hindu mindset. And let's suppose the Indians say, okay, fine. After 3 years or 4 years, let's suppose in 2025 we'll hold a referendum. But by that time, so don't you think things would have been totally different on ground? Do you think they are planning towards that side, sir, where eventually they say, fine, good enough, this is what UN wants, let's do it?
Well, the demographic change has already occurred. For example, Jammu, if you look at the proportion of the Indian versus Muslim living in the Jammu area, that the Muslim population has suffered a decline up to 10%.
That's a big number.
And, and along with that, but the valley is the main problem, because valley is 80% or even by some estimates is 90% Muslims. So regardless of what you do in trying to acquire their lands and pushing, the non-Muslims come to this area, the demographic will remain overwhelmingly in favor of the Valley of Kashmir, and the Indians very well know this. But their strategy is that they would like to displace the Kashmiris from their homelands where they have lived for centuries, even before the India came into existence. The whole notion, the Kashmiris, this is their land. So they would like, under the cleansing strategy, ethnic cleansing strategy of the Muslims that the Modi government is pursuing, they would like to displace those who feel vulnerable, because there's two ways in which people fight against oppression. One is leaving the place or staying their ground and fighting to the last blood. So Indians know that the most committed Kashmiris are not going to leave their land. But those who are of the other kind, those who are not as committed, so they would like them to leave their land, and that land will be taken over by the people whom the Indians are planning to send there. And the Senics and all this. So, but then the question is that would their life become safer or not? So peace has to return to Valley, and the only way peace can return to Valley is if Kashmiris are allowed to express their will or express their sentiments very, very freely. Unfortunately, this act of revoking Article 370 does not give Kashmiris any choice. So there are limits to which India can effect demographic change vis-a-vis the overall composition of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But Valley, regardless of how many people they bring in from outside, non-Muslims, they cannot change the overwhelming Muslim character of the Valley, and the Indians also know it.
You think this is going to work, sir? Because when you say that 80% Muslims in the Valley, now most of these properties are owned by the Muslims. If they don't want to sell it, who's going to buy it? But are you also talking about the area which is under the government control? For example, a lot of land is owned by the government. So they can give that land to the settlers. And another important point, sir, about the changes as far as the elections are concerned, for that matter. When you change the constituencies and all. Do you think that could be another lethal way to do it?
And my worry is that the Indian State Assembly elections are going to come up later this year. And in that, if you look at the arithmetic, 37 seats from Jammu, 4 from Ladakh area, and the rest from the Valley. So the Indians, the Indian Modi government is hoping that they can win all the 37 seats from Jammu, 4 from Ladakh, and that leaves them with 4. So they will gain a simple majority.
But Ladakh is now out.
No, but
as per the new.
But but still, and there are 400 panchayat elections which are due. So there is a
Things
lot.
are not that simple, by the way. Closing remarks from you, sir, Brigadier Saab.
I think it's going to be a sinister plan, as you talked about and Dr. elaborated. I think ultimate sinister and nefarious design of India seems to be changing the demography, then holding plebiscite. It's not really related to buying of the property. When you have taken the dual nationality away from the people of Kashmir and they are just one nationality of India, now any Indian can come in the Union territory and live there. So what India has in abundance is the population. So what if they send about 4 or 5 million people as new inhabitants inside the valley of Kashmir, and then hold the plebiscite and then hold the elections?
That's exactly what
altogether a different outcome. So that is what I think seems to be the reason beside. But of course, it's going to see a lot of opposition politically as well as through the freedom struggle. So it's going to be a bloody path for
Sir,
India.
we had a word with Manishankar Iyer a few days ago, and he totally supported the opposition. He said, this is our internal issue. First of all, why are you doing a show on that? So what the point is that, even the opposition, I mean, he's one of those people whom people, a lot of, he has a lot of respect.
40, 50 years ago, the people of Palestine would have felt the same. Today when they are alien within their own country because they have been forced to sell everything or migrate from Palestine. So who is the majority there?
Practically snatched by the Israelis.
The Jews from all over the world have come and settled there. So it is all the more easier for India to bring a lot of Hindu population and make them settle, like Dr. was saying, in Jammu or in Ladakh. Why can't they do it in
conversions?
Though they won't be safe, but when you are taking in the retired military people, making the military colonies, as you pointed out, I think it's going to be a plan. Whether it succeeds or not, only time would tell.
Very well, Brigadier Saab, thank you very much. Professor Saab, was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Ambassador. So that's all we have for this side.